Hello there, everyone. We're going to be getting started here in just a moment. I hope you had a great evening yesterday and enjoyed your Snoop-A-Lot session in exploring your ideal client. And we're going to dive into looking at that a little bit more deeply in the way that it connects to creating your offer. So we're going to get started with that in just a couple of minutes. Make sure you've got a cup of coffee if that's what you need, a glass of water if that's what you need, pen or pencil, and some paper. Remember, the workbook for today is over in the course portal. So if you need to download it there, you can. If you have any trouble printing it out to make it fit your printer, just remember that when the printer options come up, select fit to printer, fit to page, and that'll make it fit right on into whatever space you've got there. I want to review really quickly some of what we went over yesterday. So this is day 2 of our 3-day workshop. So let's look at where we went yesterday. So we're going to review and do some quick questions for about the first 20 minutes, and then we're going to dive into how we can take the information we gathered yesterday and put it into a format that we can use. So yesterday was all about your audience, about your perfect clients, and about finding out where they might be hanging out, where you can get information on their bigger wants, their bigger needs, their hopes, their desires, their fears, their ambitions, what's holding them back. In other words, find a place where you can get into their head a little bit. And I want to show, I'm going to do a little drawing on here really quickly. It's going to be my ugly whiteboard again, y'all. Sorry about that, but let's get that to come up here. So what we were doing yesterday in looking for our audience, our perfect people, is, remember, we were looking for places that might be bigger zones that would hold them. The big pocket of people. So you want to, empathy is having a deep connection and alignment with somebody else. And empathy is the secret sauce for marketing. It's how you can market in a way that feels authentic so that you can speak directly to your perfect clients. And empathy means you've got to learn a lot about them, particularly about their emotions and their feelings, in order to be able to direct your questions to them, to direct your product to them. So to find out what their emotions and feelings are, we're going to look at the bigger culture in which those people exist. So culture is a big group of people who have shared beliefs. And then we're looking for the people within that bigger pocket, the bigger cultural pocket, who are the perfect clients for our product. So we have lots of people in this big pocket. You know, there are hundreds of them, tons and tons of them. And the example I used yesterday was like Southern culture. And these are not necessarily people that would fit my ideal customers, but just looking at the bigger Southern culture, there are going to be people in here who just love Southern comfort food. And they're all over the place. They have these little circles. Then there are also some people in there who love the chef and the farmer. They're into Southern food with a contemporary twist. They're the little X's. So if I am a marketer who has a product that appeals to Southerners with a contemporary twist, I want the ones that are X's and not all the rest. So I want to do something that's going to filter out the O's. The O's are going to stay up here. And I've got a filter. This is what we're going to do tomorrow. We're going to filter. And the X's are coming through. so that I'm only going to really be directing my attention to the X's. So we got a big pocket of people up here, and we get a smaller pocket of people here, but they're going to be the perfect people. So remember, the cooking analogy is just an example in the cooking niche. I'm not talking about targeting everybody who loves food. That's just an example. So this is the bigger cultural pocket, and here's the smaller cultural pocket. And I'm going to identify with them, and I'm going to filter them out through empathy, through using the terms that they understand, that they use for themselves, the feelings, wants, and beliefs that are pertinent just to them. So we're going from the big to the small. And that small one is in here, but they're all mixed up. So we've got to filter them all out. So let's go back over here for just a second to the presentation. What we're covering today is your offer. How you're going to take a product you already have. I'm not talking about y'all going out and making something brand new. I'm talking about taking something you already have, whether it's a course you taught in person, a workshop you did in person, paintings that you've already made, prints that you've already made, note cards that you've already made. Not going and creating anything new, taking what you already got and packaging that in a way that you can market it to your perfect people online. So we're looking for creating the offer. The offer's not the product. The offer is how you package the product. It's the wrapping paper you put on your product to make it appeal to a certain group of people. Then tomorrow, we're talking about your promotion, how you're going to get that offer in front of those perfect people, and how you are going to pull them towards it, and you're going to make them want it. Not make them. You're going to invite them to purchase it. They're going to be drawn to it, and they're going to want to purchase it. So we collected information yesterday, and you've been in groups, you've been in pages. You can fill more of this out later. Remember, there was a set of questions that were there at the end of the workbook yesterday, all about people's hopes and fears, what keeps them up at night, what scares them, what their dreams are, what they hate, what they love, all kinds of background info. And we're going to organize that now so that we can use it in a way that helps you write your copy, helps you write your offer, so that it sounds like you're in their head and what you have is in complete alignment with them. So remember, alignment's really important. You want to have alignment between you, your offer, and your ideal client. So we're going to create what we call an empathy map. And I know y'all just love my little impressionist head person there in the center. There are all kind of ways to structure these. And the person in the middle represents your ideal client avatar. It stands for the person who is your dream client that you love to work with, who's a perfect match for what you have to offer. They're in the middle. And usually when you create an empathy map, you divide that rectangle with the avatar in the middle into 4 sections. Now, different people have different things that they focus on in those. But what we're going to focus on today are their beliefs. We're going to focus on what they say, what they believe. We're going to come back through these in just a second. What they feel and what they do. So in maybe the upper left, you're going to put what they believe. In the lower left, you're going to put what they feel. And then we're going to put in those other 2 on the other side. So right now, if you've got your workbook printed out, You can draw right on top of this or write right on top of this. If you want to just draw off a quadrant for yourself right now, you can leave off the cute little head in the middle. That really doesn't matter. It's just a reminder that there's a person in the middle who's holding all of these ideas, thoughts, beliefs, and actions contained within themselves. So you want to put them in the middle and then divide your rectangle into 4. So everybody divide a rectangle into 4. Divide it up into 4. And the first thing we're going to look at questions, things they say. What are the things that they ask about? What are the statements that they made? What kind of things did you find as you were looking through those groups and those Facebook pages? What were the things that relate to the product you're going to offer that they might have been asking? What are the things that hold them back? What are they curious about? So can anybody think of any kind of questions that they ran into that would fit with that quadrant? What did you find that might fit with the things that they say? I'll give you some examples for a different kind of product and a different kind of market. So, and this I think will help you begin to get this out of your head and down onto paper. So this is an example for people who are going to buy a TV. So if they're going to buy a TV, some of the things that they say might be, I was expecting something different. I want something really reliable. I want something that's easy to set up. What size screen is the best? What brand do you like? Where should I start in buying a TV? What do you think about TVs? So do you see how the questions can be really simple? So what are they saying? So Sarah says one of the things they said was to protect the specific place that they love. So let's phrase that as like, I want to protect my favorite place. That's something they might say. I want to protect my favorite place. So what they believe, we're going to come back to the beliefs and the feelings. Beliefs tend to be ideas. Ideas are thoughts. It's what they think. Feelings are emotions. Feelings are emotions, and beliefs are thoughts. They're related, but they're a little bit different. So thinking is beliefs and feeling is thoughts. So let's take the ones that I just used as an example. And even if you haven't done that much research yet, thinking about what your ideal client says about, let's take marketing and painting. One of the things they might say is, I was expecting something different. It's really not that much different from shopping for a TV. Did you notice that? I want to know it's going to look good in my living room. I'm afraid it might be too big. What size will fit in my dining room? How do I start in buying a painting? What artist do you like? What do you think about buying art? So they say things like that. So Carrie, those are feelings. Those are feelings. So hold off on the feelings. Talk about what they're saying. Think about the questions that they have, the statements that they might be making. What are they saying? Yeah, they say, it reminds me of Van Gogh. Or they might say, I want something that reminds me of Van Gogh. How about that? So think about questions that people might ask, questions they might have about an online art workshop. Is it live? How many of y'all asked me about that? Think about questions you had about the boot camp. Am I going to be able to access the videos later? Are there going to be recordings? Can I ask questions? Is it for me? Does the fact I make watercolors matter? Is it for oil painters? Is it for people who work in acrylic? Is it for beginners? Is it for advanced students? So think about, what is it that they're asking? What are they saying? What is it that they say that they love? What is it they say they think? Because sometimes there's a disconnect between what they say and what they actually think and what they feel too. So you can take it up a notch and look at what there's the difference between what they're saying and what they actually do think or feel. So, do you think art is worth it? That's a great question. What's the difference between an original and a print or a reproduction? What's the difference between an original print and a reproduction? How do I frame art? Here's another one that I hear. How do I hang it? All of these are things that might hold them back. These are things that might be a showstopper for them. How long did it take to make that? You need to have an answer for that one, because you will get asked that. Can I choose my frame? Anybody ever heard of this person? How do you price your work? Yeah. So all of those are fantastic questions. Here's one that I know you'll get asked. How much does shipping cost? Here's another one. It's a statement. Now this really becomes a belief. This goes over to thinking. So my 2-year-old can do this. How many of y'all have heard that? Put that over there under thinking and beliefs. And here's how you answer that. Yes, your 2-year-old probably can do this, but you can't. And that's the truth, because 2-year-olds are very free in their mark making. This is for people who work in abstract expressionism. 2-year-olds make great abstract expressionist painters, but their parents can't do it for their life because they're too uptight and they've been told they can't and they're afraid. So you just have to figure out how to answer the questions. How do I know it's an original? They want to know that if they're paying an original price, that they're really getting something that's an original. So you're going to have to be able to answer that. So think about how you can answer that question. These are things that sometimes they're things that reflect what they desire. Sometimes they hide limiting beliefs and fears. So sometimes they're hiding feelings and sometimes they're hiding fears. But these really can lead to what we call objections, things that hold people back from buying. And the more you know, the more you're going to be able to answer them, just like we were just doing. And understand that an empathy map is something that's ongoing. You can keep building this up until you have a more complete picture. If you're doing both paintings or artwork and courses, classes, workshops, you need 2 empathy maps, one for each ideal client. Now, you can do that little small one and you can write on it and you can print multiple copies if you want to. But a lot of people really like to do empathy maps big, like on a whiteboard or something that gives you lots of room to squiggle around. And that's where I use my Post-it notes. I stick the Post-it notes up on the empathy map, and it helps me when I'm doing my writing later. So now we're going to go to our next quadrant. What they believe. This goes to the right-hand side. So what they say was on the left, and now we're going to the right with what they believe. And think about statements that they might make that would start with, I believe that, and it could be totally wrong. I mean, they could be totally incorrect. I believe my 2-year-old could paint that. And you know that's not true. A, their 2-year-old's not going to get those materials. B, what they're really saying is they could do it, and they can't. And then the second way that people might phrase that is that having a photograph of an elephant in my dining room shows I love endangered animals. So that blank shows that I am part of that cultural group that they want to belong to. Think of cultural groups as being tribes, big tribes of people, and you're trying to pull your perfect people out of that tribe. Well, they want things that show they're members of tribes. All of us as human beings want to belong somewhere. We want to be a part of something that's bigger than us. And you want to move them from the big tribe that they're in to your little even tighter tribe of perfect clients. So the shows that I am is a way that they identify with that tribe. And you're going to be able to use this language in some of the contact, the back and forth conversations, the relationship building that you do with your potential perfect clients. That's why this one is super, super, super important. I believe I don't know anything about art. That might be something they say, and what it really masks is a feeling that they're not good enough, that they're stupid, and that what they think doesn't matter. So really that's kind of a what they say that hides something that they really believe. So when somebody says, I really don't know anything about art, they're intimidated. And what they're feeling is intimidation. They're feeling afraid. They're feeling that what they think and feel doesn't really matter. So that's a great one. I want everybody to write that one down under what they say is, I don't know anything about art. And then under that bottom right-hand corner where we're going to talk about feelings, intimidated, stupid, dumb. And people do. A lot of times when they go into galleries, physical gallery spaces, a lot of your potential clients, some of your best ones, have not bought art before. And they feel intimidated by going into a gallery. They feel intimidated by that kind of a space. They feel like they're not smart enough. They don't know enough, that they're somehow not as bright as the people who work there. And the truth is, there's some galleries, not as many anymore because they don't stay open that long, but there's some galleries that have used that kind of we're here, you're here to filter out people they think don't have enough money. I don't think that's a wise business practice because you can't tell by looking at people whether or not they can afford your work. So people have a lot of fears around buying art, tons of fears. I believe that color makes me happy. Or I believe, let's just put it this way, I believe color makes me happy. That's a belief a lot of people have. And especially your people, Paula, they're going to believe that color really makes them happy. Mary says, I think that if I have an image of a place I love, it will make me happy. Oh, I like that one. I believe if I have an image of a place I love, it'll make me happy. And you can connect that to feelings too. Yeah. So one of the fears, we're going to come to that in a minute. So what they might believe is that buying online is scary. What they might believe is that buying online is full of potential fraud. That if they buy online, they're going to be stuck with the painting. If they buy online, that they won't have, they might get the painting that doesn't match. And that is a real concern. I know we make jokes about people buying according to the color of the sofa, but it really does matter to some people. And we can't laugh at them. Instead, we need to meet them where they are. So we have to think about one of the things that that they believe, which is that they might not be able to return it if they buy it and don't like it. So really concrete things that they believe. Now, my perfect people, one of the things that they believe is that nature matters. One of the things that they believe is that being in nature makes them feel better. One of the things that they believe is preserving the environment is important. So get some of those big picture beliefs in there too. And that helps you to be able to talk to them more directly. Let me see. I believe that having portraits on my wall will make me look snooty. Oh, that's a good one. So yeah, there are some people who would love to have a portrait painted of themselves, their husband, their spouse, their partner, their children, but they're afraid it's going to make them look like snobs. So that you've got a belief and a fear locked in together there. Then the reverse of that is also true, because remember, people buy, one of the emotions that they're trying to connect to is status, belonging to a tribe. So there is a belief that if they commission a portrait of themselves, that it shows they have a higher status. So there's also a belief that if they own original art instead of prints or posters, that they have a higher status. Now, that's, you don't want to say directly to a potential client, you're going to look like you're more important if you have a real piece of art hanging on your wall, because that's kind of a turnoff. But there are ways that you can phrase that where it speaks to their desire to keep up with the Joneses and have a higher status. So beliefs are things that they hold to be true. They can be values, they can be false beliefs, and they can be what they perceive about the way the world works. So, yeah, here's another one. Life drawings of nudes are smutty or pornographic. So that can be something that might hold somebody back from buying a nude, and they really would love to have a nude on the wall because they think a nude is a classical example of painting, but they're afraid of what their friends are going to think about them having a naked lady hanging on the wall. Now, I'm going to say that they're not your perfect people if they think that. And there are ways to create a filtering question when you're in some of those groups so that you can note that that's not going to be your perfect person, because you're going to have a really hard time changing somebody's mind about that. If they already believe that, they're in a tribe that doesn't think that nudes are okay. And you're going to have a really hard time moving them from that belief and that tribe to a tribe that thinks it's okay. So one of the things you want to root out are some of these core beliefs that are filters that are not in alignment with your perfect people. What percentage of your perfect people are artists? On myself, probably, you mean people who buy my art? Probably about 10%, maybe 15. Artists do buy art, but there are also people who are on my email list for my paintings who just like seeing them, who are artists. So there are things like that. Most of my people on my list for paintings are not artists. The predominant number of them are not. So I think y'all have the idea there about beliefs and I am. So I want you to think too about blank shows that I am, and then fill that in and think about good stuff. So yeah, and somebody says, I buy art, don't you? It inspires me. Yes, a lot of artists do. That's why you don't want to shut artists off, but to attract artists who do buy art, you need to be talking about the art and the idea of owning art, not giving art tips. Two different things. So artists who buy art, they're buying it because of the story and because of the emotional connection with the person. They're not buying it because you told them which size brush you use. See the difference? And what I see people do a lot of times, they're trying to target collectors, artists and non-artists. And when they make a blog post, they give a demonstration of making the painting, and they talk about how they mixed the colors and which number brush they used. Now, collectors can be interested in the general process. They very rarely want to know what number brush or the name of the tube of color you use. So you got to be really careful with that, because you're not talking to the perfect person when you do that. So when I'm talking to people who want to study painting, then I talk about the number knife I use and the number brush and which panels and all that kind of stuff. But they're very, very different things. So there are overlaps there, but don't target collectors and talk about the nuts and bolts and tips about how to make a painting. So think about what shows that I am. You'll know I'm a I love art because I have more paintings on my wall than I have chairs in my living room. That's a shows that I am example. You'll know that I love landscape painting because I only have 2 prints of still lifes. You'll know that I love, and then fill in the blank, or blank shows that I am. Having more paintings on the wall than having furniture shows that I love art, or that I'm an art collector. So that's what I mean by that. How do I answer the question about how long it takes me to paint something? I say answer with how long I've been painting, all my life, and that it took all my life to get to the point that I'm at right now, where I can complete that painting in the time it takes me to complete it. So that's what I say. Not having any more room for art, that's a question, something people say all the time. Sometimes, Michelle, it's a Southernism and they really don't want to buy, and they're just coming out with an excuse, a polite answer for why they're not going to buy. But usually what is going on when people say, I don't have any more room for art, is that they've just kind of slapped the paintings up on the wall and they can't visualize how to get anything else into that space. And one way to answer that is to say, and we can come up with this as a bonus, getting down the road into the offer, but the way you answer that, instill a new belief, is we can rearrange that so that you can find a space for this painting if you really love it. So you answer them with you come up with a solution for whatever the problem is. Southerners are not direct. We are an indirect culture. And a lot of times people will not tell you what their real objection is. You have to dig deeper. There are other cultures that are equally indirect. If you are in the UK, you're going to run into the same thing. People are not necessarily going to tell you what they're really thinking and what they're really feeling. So you've got to dig deeper. It's a much deeper level of, I'm not going to tell you what I really think, than the average person. So know the culture of the people that you're talking to. I'm downsizing. Again, you answer the same thing as I don't know. The answer is the same as to I don't have any more room for art. Is that I'm happy to help you rearrange your collection so that you can fit it into the space that you're in right now. And yes, you can still do that virtually. You can help them virtually on that, especially if it's a large sale. So yes, and I do love to say small paintings are precious jewels. That's a great belief too. So our next quadrant is hopes, fears, dreams, and desires, what they feel. So what are they feeling? So the things like, I I don't have enough space. I'm downsizing. I have to chat with my husband or my wife or my partner or my daughter or my best friend. All of those are things they say and go in the upper left-hand quadrant. Right now, we're on what they feel. What are they hoping? And this is the kind of stuff that you might have to dig a little bit deeper on. So if somebody says that, you know, they have to check with their wife or husband, what they're really saying is they're not sure. They're undecided. They may be saying they're overwhelmed. They may be saying that they're not sure that they can trust that you're going to deliver on your promise. They may be feeling anxious. They may be feeling excitement. But you want to try to pull out what they're actually feeling from what they're saying, from what they believe. And some of their feelings, we can talk about the big picture feeling right now. Because this is something that all of your clients, potential clients, are going to be dealing with. What's the number one feeling that people around the world have right now? Type it into the chat roll. Feelings is the bottom right quadrant. Fear, anxiety. Number one feelings. Fear and anxiety. Now, there's some other ones in there too that y'all are typing in that are really, really important. Isolation, boredom. Talk about general feelings. Unsure about the future. Financial worries. All of those are big picture feelings, and they're ones you've got to address in some way, shape, or form if you're going to be selling right now. Because the truth is, if you don't address those up front in some way, shape, or form, people are going to be concerned about buying from you right now. Because if y'all seen things marketed right now where they're not addressing the big elephant in the room, where they're not talking about the reactions to what's going on in the situation, and it feels inauthentic, it feels tone deaf. You don't want to be that person. Neither do you want to go, I know you're right in the middle of COVID-19, but a painting is going to make you feel more peaceful. That's tone deaf as well. And I would leave the word COVID-19 out. Don't talk about that. You don't have to. People know it's out there. Don't use the word virus. People don't need to be reminded about that. They know it's out there. What you can talk about are during the times that we're in right now. You might call it challenging times. You might call it the situation as it is right now, or the feelings you have right now. But you need to not talk about COVID-19, virus, pandemic, because that's too direct and it's going to spark enormous anxiety as soon as you say it. Not only that, if you use those words in posts on social media, they will not have any reach, because Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, LinkedIn, all of them are dropping those down because it doesn't make people feel good. And especially on platforms like Instagram and Facebook, their goal is to make people feel good and stay on the platform. And if what you see on there makes you feel bad, you leave. And they don't want that to happen. So you won't get as much reach if you do that. So this is why it's not a good idea to paint this real literal picture of pain. Don't make them hurt. That does not make people's lives improve. There are a lot of marketers who do that. Y'all are not going to do that. I don't think it works for what we're doing. And I honestly don't think people need that right now. And yeah, some people are concerned about not being able to return things. We're going to talk about that when we talk about guarantees down in the offer. And a lot of people, as Cheryl Miller is talking about a lot of people are redoing their homes right now. I know that my daughter and son-in-law, because they have a house they bought just a year ago, are doing house projects right now. They're stuck at home. Both of them are still working, one remotely and the other works at the hospital. They're still working, but they're not going out to restaurants. They're not socializing like they usually did. So they're working on house projects. When people work on house projects, guess what they do? They buy stuff. They're doing it. Other people are doing it too. So you can talk about, are you thinking about rearranging your living room while you're sitting at home right now? That might be a question that you might ask people in a Facebook group. We'll come back to that in a minute tomorrow, actually tomorrow. But yeah, there are ways that you can turn that around. I totally agree, Pat. I think you catch more, we say more flies with honey, but you catch more bees with honey than vinegar. And it's true that people make a decision faster based on pain, but it will not work on social media if you do that. And I just don't think now is the time to make people feel bad. Don't point out the things that hurt. Yes, Carrie says she's had a couple of surprisingly successful online sales events since this has all started. Yes, the people are buying right now. So in the Painter's Path, in my business course and in my mastermind group, the ones that have launched during the middle of this time period are selling paintings. They're selling stuff, and not just little itty bitty cheap paintings either. They're selling bigger paintings that cost over $1,000. So people are buying art because it makes them feel good when they're scared. It's a simple thing like that. It makes them feel good when they're scared. So you have the possibility and the potential to improve people's lives because of how you're going to make them feel once they purchase. So some of the things that they might feel in general, and write those down. Get those general feelings out now. They can feel, right now people feel anxious, they are afraid, they don't know if they have what it takes to face what's coming or what they think in fear might be coming. They're overwhelmed. They're not sure who to trust. They can get excited about getting out of lockdown. And there's a lot of excitement around that. They get excited about about redoing their home. They can get excited about all kinds of things. And they can have fears about money. They want to be careful how they spend their money. And they might feel like spending money on things that make them feel good. So one of my former students had told me, from the college, had told me that she was shopping online like crazy and she was buying stuff she didn't need because it made her feel good. And she was buying smaller stuff. But there are people with more disposable income who will buy bigger stuff because it makes them feel good right now. Retail therapy. Hello, retail therapy. So in that bottom right-hand quadrant, you're going to write down how they feel. You can also put down how they want to feel. So what are the opposite emotions to the things that are the negative emotions right now? So can you make them feel calm? Can you make them feel hopeful? Can you make them feel safe? Can you make them feel appreciated? Can you make them feel, I love this one, connected to nature? If you're dealing with something like Steve was talking about, spiritual boho being the style, do you make people feel more connected to their higher self, to whatever they call God for them? Do you make people feel validated, heard, acknowledged, secure? Y'all got the idea. Write down those things too. What are their dreams? They dream of having a peaceful, calm, warm, safe, secure, joyful home. They might feel like having that in a garden if you make sculpture, for example. They want to make their home a safe oasis during the challenging times. So think about that. Think about people who might want to take a course or a workshop. They're bored. That's where the boredom comes in. They're bored because they haven't been able to go to that workshop they had planned. They can't go to class. They're bored. They want to paint. They want to work with their favorite instructor, but they can't get there because they can't drive to their physical class and be with a group of people. They're frustrated because they can't do that. They really want to learn more about painting. They're home bored. They haven't painted in 20 years. Now's a good time to paint. So think about the frustrations, the hopes, fears, and desires people who might want to learn painting would have. And yes, Leah, Sharon, I keep doing that because I have a Leah in the other course. We do need a little break. So let me get to one more quadrant and then I'll let y'all take a break. And that's what they do. Think about the actions that they take. So if somebody is going to buy paintings, what do? They check websites. They research artists. They look artists up online. They look through their favorite magazines. They ask their friends who they bought paintings from. Sometimes under challenging times, they postpone big decisions. But think about what they do. So when we're talking about the quadrants, and I'll draw a quick picture here, just to refresh everybody's memory where they all go. And it really doesn't matter if you get the quadrants in a different spot. You just want to have all four. Erase all this stuff. I'll erase part of it. So when you're looking at the map, and you're dividing it into fourths, this is what they say. This is what they believe. This is the actions they take, the things that they do, and this is what they feel. But know that there's no such thing as putting them in the wrong quadrant. It really doesn't matter as long as you have them separated out. One of the reasons I like to do it like this is it makes a clear divide between what happens on the outside, but it really doesn't matter where you put them because it's easy to still divide them that way, between the external and the internal. One's outside and one's inside.